Okay, so we're going to have the next item due, our week 2 item 2, or the 25 first JavaScript challenges for free code camp. But I'm going to give you two videos for this item. One is going to show you how I want you to format the free code camp items, and that'll be the second one. The first one is going to be a follow-up on a few of the items and just continuing this setup a little bit on our development setup for your system, because I ended last time giving you, do these steps without me, but one thing I didn't really talk about was how I wanted you to submit your work. And by the way, this is actually going to be the way you pretty much submit it from here on out, because what'll happen, and I'm going to go ahead and navigate over to my repo, and for you it'd be your repo within here, right? So it's really only this URL. What happens is when I do that in my virtualize, it changes the resolution, but I'm going to copy that. And then inside of Canvas, whenever you're ready for me to grade your work, you would then just post this URL for your GitHub, CIT, and then your username, okay? And the reason that is we're doing it that way is what happens then is I actually go and pull your code from the repo, and I look at it locally, which means I can see your commits and I can look at your code and I can render it. So this is just like a heads up, okay, my code's ready to go, is the way you do this. So in our course, what you want to do, and let me just switch for a moment to what's called the student view, because I didn't really talk about this. This is our first assignment that you do, or this last one was, not this one. So, settings, and then down in here, you got student view. Now you don't see this. This is just me and Canvas switching. Okay. So for that assignment, and I will probably have said, right, for this assignment, go review the next one, but I'll just show you here. I'll give you that. So I'm going to submit the assignment, and the way you submit these assignments, and really from here on out, is you give me a web URL. So in that case, didn't quite grab it. Let's make sure I get that. I'll do a copy. I could just type it in. Seems fairly straightforward as well, right? And then you can give me any comments that you want, and then you submit it. So again, you're just basically saying, yeah, my code's ready to go, and then I will go check it out. All right. So I wanted to come back to a couple of things that, in doing this work, and just give you the heads up, is that I am actually, because I code almost all fully on Mac side, but I really challenge myself to set up my environment and do everything that I'm asking you to do on the Windows side. That way I can answer questions, hopefully from students on either side. So there's a couple things I want to show you. One in VS Code is, now that we've set up these directories and we have them going, I would recommend doing the open, and then go to and let's just do it even though I have it, is open the folder, and now open your user folder. Okay, now I already have it here, and that's the way from here on out I would do that. Okay, because I think that's really the intent of when I set this up, how you would want to open this folder, because now we'll only work within here, right? And then the other thing I wanted to show you was here under preferences, under settings. When you do settings, it comes up with a JSON file. If you don't know what that is, you'll learn through this semester, but it's basically a way to format data, JSON, JavaScript object notation. So in this default installation of VS Code, and I think this is true for the Mac and the PC, the auto save is off, and I gotta tell you, it's one of my favorite features that I don't have to go in there and change anything. I'm not sure why it's not. Oh, okay, good. It actually gives you an option here on focus change after delay. Okay. Oh, I see, it's over here. So we're going to change it here. I saw it yesterday, but I didn't change it. So we're going to say on focus change editor size. You can change. There's so much you can customize in here. It actually can be overwhelming. Auto save. Looks like it is on. We'll test that now actually to see if it is working. Okay. So here's the other change that I did. is in the index file for your repo that we just started, I also added a UL, another list underneath there, and I added a link to the autogram. Okay, now in this case, let's see, is it relative versus absolute? No, it's relative. Okay, the absolute would be if I spelled out the directory, and in this case I wouldn't want to, right? I want it to resolve in whatever environment I'm in. So now what I could do here, right, and I'd already set this up. Now one thing I could do if I wanted, I could add maybe an underscore blank, but I really don't want to because I want that to be, but I want to make a change was my point. And I think what I'll do here is strong. Let's see if it gets, there we go. Still playing a little bit, I got to work on that, is having the emit commands to work correctly. So, no, that's not what I wanted. Undo. Actually, what I wanted here, and one thing I can do is you can just select code like that, and you can just drag it over. So I can drag it over to there and then get. Now the question would be, do you know, does white space matter? And the answer is no. Okay, one space, but not beyond that. So now I have a change. Let's see. It should be automatically saving. If not, I need to go in there and play with that. So until then, I want you to see this. Here's the other thing when we were talking about this. I'm going to go back to my integrated. And maybe it's when it was off. Actually, it did save it. I didn't have to. It's cool. It did save it. I'm noticing on my virtualized environment, everything seems to be a little lagged. It's just the way it is. I need to probably allocate some more RAM to it. So actually that did work. It was just too quick. I'm used to computers responding faster. So in this case, the other thing I wanted to show you was, and I did work on this. I'm going to go ahead and bring back my commands. Oh, by the way, you can do this as well if you're finding that when you're pushing code to GitHub, if your username is not set up the way you want. Let me make sure I'm in the right directory. Oh yeah, I'd played with that command a couple of times to make sure I had the right one. So there is a command. I believe it's git, and then it's config -- global user.name. Right? So the other one you can do, I believe, is user.email. Right? So if for some reason those things aren't set up correctly, you can have that change as well so that you know that you're good to go. So I do have, if I do a git status here, I do have a modification. So I could do a git add star just to say add everything that's out there. Oh, very good. Actually, I hadn't done, very nice, I hadn't done the add since the last time I was in here. Okay, so warning, it's just giving me a little bit of warnings because it ended up adding all that code that I had placed into here, which is totally what I wanted. So what I would do here is I could just go ahead and do a git push and push that code up to the server. Looks like, oh, I didn't do a git commit. Commit, and then I would do -m, and I would say adding autogram starting point. And actually that's something that I actually in the notes had you do last time. So I'll go ahead and do it now. Creating, boom, 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 boom. And then I should be able to do a push and place that stuff out. So good. So that now is written out to the repo. And again, you know, and I'll say this probably on the writing for the first item is to review this video just to make sure you have it. So the reason I also wanted to kind of talk about this was I did a little more research on the browser sync -sync, and we go start -- server -- files. Now in this case I'm leaving off the Chrome because when I was reading this and I tried it after the video, it actually did work because Chrome was my default browser. And then in here, what I'm telling it is making sure style sheets, and it's saying look for any CSS file, render them. In addition, look at your star.html. Now we will change this as we go forward because we'll also want it to pick up our JavaScript files. Okay, so let's see if I got that right. And if I did, it should automatically, and it does here, open up my browser for me. Okay, so that's what I like about this. I like having started this server in our repo directory. I could manually go to the autogram, but that's the other nice thing about building this as we learn, is just building this so that that autogram shows up. Okay, so those are the couple things I wanted to show you, just kind of finishing up with that workflow to make sure you have that set up correctly. So right now, before we start into this item, you'll have an index file in the root of your repo directory, and then you'll have one in the apply autogram, and we'll start dealing with that one starting next week. But today what we'll work on is the learn. So I'm going to actually stop this video. Oh, and the other thing I found out, because I'm running a virtual environment, when I do, I believe it is Control C to stop my server, it just takes a few minutes. I have to be very patient. But typically when you're running things at the command line like this, it is a Control C to stop it. So that's a very typical command. Sometimes it just takes, and especially on this virtualize, and I think again it's just resource limited. Okay, all right, so I think that's all I wanted to say to kind of finish that up, is showing you how to submit from here on out. This is how you will submit, just the URL to your private repo, and then just showing you a little more about how to set up VS Code to auto save your files if you want. I think that's a great thing to do. I will say the other reason I love browser sync was one of the first things I tried to do when I was started converting over to VS Code from WebStorm was just reviewing the file. See how long that took? But what I found was that it wasn't necessarily a straightforward thing. It ended up being a config file, which, by the way, if you'll notice, that config files in these cases are JSON files that I just needed to set up. But I just like the idea of actually running a server, because there are some things that we're going to do throughout the semester that you're going to want that set up. Okay? All right, so I think that's it for this. I'll stop and then pick it up on how I want you to do the next work for this class. Thanks. Bye.